I'm going to help you guys better your tours by giving you a virtual tour of what I used to do last year, so you can probably use some of the stuff that I did, because I basically stole my tour from Caleb. So we would all start in the Centrum, and we would begin in the Rotunda, and I would just give some facts about the Rotunda. Don't forget to talk about the tutoring center, the mentoring center, the cashier's office, the academic advising, all of the above. Just make sure you point that out. I would walk down, show them the bookstore, make sure you talk about getting your textbooks there and not online. You need to be an advocate for the bookstore because you do represent this university. Then I would head to the Centrum. I would show them the basketball court and ask them what is the most attended sport on campus, and I would say gymnastics. They always love that statistic. And I'd ask them about the seats in the Centrum, be like, why do you think they look this way? And everyone says it's supposed to represent a fire bowl. And then I would begin going outside the doors, and the green star means an icebreaker. Now, because this is the first icebreaker, you want to make sure it's not too much information. It just gets their names out there so people can start getting to know each other without, embarrassing themselves quite yet. So the name game would be a really great way to start off your icebreakers. Have them say their name and some word that describes them, like Happy Heather or Joyful Joanne, something like that. And then I would take them along this sidewalk, and the blue means point of reference. So you can't make everything on your tour. It's just there's not enough time in the day. I would just reference the residence halls. Do not call them the dorms. They are the residence halls. And I would just point them out and be like, all right, who is living in the residence halls? And then people would raise their hands, and I'd be like, oh, maybe your roommates, and be that Cedar or Eccles. And it just gets a great conversation, because that looks like a short amount of time, but that sidewalk is a long time of no talking. So always fill the space, get the students involved, get them talking. The library was the next stop. In front of the library, you'll learn about the tradition of the dolphin story. And you just go inside the library, and Phil Roche or someone at the circulation desk will have a 5-minute spiel about the library. It's kind of important that you go in there and let them do their thing so that they can talk about all the different floors and resources. Sometimes you run out of time, so sometimes you just say what you need to say outside the building. That way everyone knows about the beautiful library. I would walk along this path. Once again, blue is point of reference, so I couldn't make it all the way down to Old Sorrel. So I would just point at that corner, and I would say, who knows what happens at Old Sorrel? We would talk about True T-Bird Night, and I'd say the history of Old Sorrel up at Old Main, so I was like, look forward to hearing about that beautiful horse later in our tour. I would head up by the administration building and the business building, that path in between. I would talk about how the business building is not just for business classes. I had a theater class in there. So you always want to relate your personal story into your tour. I'd also talk about how they do taxes there on the second floor for free. I don't pay taxes yet because I'm not an adult. But they always like that fact. The administration building is what it says. Basically all the important people are in that building. Then I would head to, most of my tours were guided to education majors, so I actually took them through the education building, showed them some of the labs and classrooms so that they got excited about coming to school in the fall. You can do that with any of your groups if you're guided to, if your tour is for science majors, then you would take them to the science building, stuff like that. Then I would go to Upper Campus by Old Hunter Conference Center, too many building names, and once again I would do a point of reference to the PE building. I know some people took them to the actual PE building, but I don't really like the PE building because I don't like to work out, so I would always just, I would call it the point of the rock, and you just feel like you're on top of the world in that corner. And I would show them the PE building, and I would also show them this number 27, the Leadership Engagement Center, and I would talk about if you needed a presentation done, or if you needed help in any kind of fields of speech or whatever, they would help. Speech and Presentation Center and the Leadership Engagement Center will help you out. All from that point of the circle. As we were walking by, I would point out Hunter Conference Center and say, who knows about the Harry Potter room? I would talk about casino night and the fun events that happens in the Hunter Conference Center. And then I would come around and go to Old Main, where I would speak about the ghost of Old Main, and I would reference the story and say come back on midnight and all that fun stuff. They really like the ghost story. We would do a group icebreaker on the upper quad. Eviction is the thing that we like to play. Most of the time, that's halfway through the tour, so they're tired, they're done, and this was also after academic advising, so everyone's half asleep, drooling outside their mouth. So a fun icebreaker with other groups. We would just meet up with, Brent's group or Mac's group or whoever's group. We would just play some icebreakers on the top of that's my finger, on the top of the quad. Then we would go past the Shakespeare Theater. I would talk about that and talk about the $30 ticket. You never want to give a price, though, because it could change, and they'll be like, oh, my leader said so, and then they'll get pissed at you, and they might follow you home and kill you, all of the above. So just make sure you reference that there is tickets available to get discount tickets for the Shakespeare Theater season, and how fun it is. And because we're doing the Thunderbard, you can pitch the Thunderbard there as well. I would also I would keep walking and talk about at this corner, I would point and reference the police station. That's very important that you point that out so they know where on campus it's located. It's just directly across the crosswalk, I think that's number 2. Can't really see it on the camera, but number 2. And I would just talk about how you can get your stuff engraved for free. And all of these facts you'll learn about more. I'll put a handout worksheet for every building, a number, and a fact. But talk about getting your stuff engraved for free, and that you can have your items registered there for free as well for lifetime. If your stuff gets stolen, you can always have that information for you. Then I would continue walking down 300 West and take them into the GC building and show them that there's different floors for different doors, all of the above, so that they don't get lost their first day of school. And then we'd walk out of the GC building and head down towards the science buildings and the music building and the South Hall. Sorry, shaking a lot. And I never really know what to say about the music building or the South Hall because they're not music majors or they're not theater majors, but you can just say that's where they're located. And I went out to the main street, and I talked about the EDGE project, and I pointed out the Community Engagement Center and the Global Engagement Center. That way they see where it's housed, and then I'll just say there's a breakout session to learn more about your EDGE project later. I'd also talk about the free food in the Hope Pantry. Walk through, go straight. I would go back to the bell tower. That way, I'd pass the GC building. I'd talk about how the testing center, you just go in through the doors and down the stairs. And then I would head to the bell tower, tell them the tradition of the bell tower, and the respect and all that stuff. Make sure you point out the Braithwaite building and how the writing center is on the second floor. You can just go in and get your paper corrected. And like I said, all of these facts I'll put on every number. I'm just kind of giving you what I did in my layout. So back to the bell tower, down, and most of the time that was about time. And so we would just head to the student center and talk about SUSA offices, multicultural center, all of the resources that are in the student center. Like I said, I'll make a list of all of them and put them below. So basically, that is my layout of my tour, and you can do really whatever you want. Just know that some buildings you can't get them all, and make sure you age your tour to what particular major or interest your student has. And before you start your tour, I always in the rotunda said, let's have fun. Stop me if I'm going too fast. What do you want to see on campus? What is something that excites you? If they talked about the Shakespeare Festival, I would sometimes see if the auditorium was open and we could sneak in. So just make sure that your tour is personalized as much as possible to your students in your group. Yeah, that's my tour.